It's Sunday, January 11th, and we're here attending day 2 of the Irish Forum event. Yesterday was a huge success, and hopefully today is going to be the same. Some people said to us last night that some more audience participation would be a good thing. Let's wait and see what happens.
Build local lobbying coalitions, so organise local meetings, local WhatsApp groups, take their proposals, find a way to simplify them and explain them to people, join up with tradespeople, parents, small businesses. The biggest danger that we're going to face with all of this is identity linkage. So data gains value whenever it's combined. So we need to put a ban on secondary data use. We need to limit data collection and retention.
And your travel will increasingly be taken away and your freedoms. So it's a huge deal. But why aren't people talking about it? So the most powerful thing that the leaders and the networks that drive all these policies have is having people not engage and not talk about these things. And that's why we get all the censorship.
They're going to put a chip in the driver's license so that what will happen is if you've been a ball boy, that driver's license will prohibit the car from starting. And that's the method that they're going to use. Oh, by the way, this one got wet, so I put it in the microwave to dry it. I'm not recommending that. But sometimes these things do happen to fall into microwaves. The whole thing is that it's allowing them to switch the engine off. The only way we can get around it is to become, as Melissa said, political. There's no point in everybody coming here and saying, oh, we had a show of force.
There is the best gold standard, best practice medical advice in the CAS report which says, no, you don't do that. Now, picture a scenario if you willfully do that. What are you going to get? You're going to get a situation where you willfully and deliberately go against best practice medical advice. If that causes harm to the child, because the child is now positioned on a pathway that leads on to puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and ultimately irreversible mutilating surgery, and then if there is regret, what does that person do? That person looks to apportion blame, and that means a legal route. So what I'm saying is, any teacher, any individual teacher, any school, and any board of governors, headmasters, anybody involved in education needs to talk to their insurers and say the very simple thing: if I willfully and deliberately disregard best practice medical advice, and if my willful disregard of that advice leads on to regret as a result of decisions made based on the advice that I got in that school, who is legally responsible for that? Who pays the bills? Who pays the damage? Thank you very much. Well done.
Theory. We need to teach children how to think, not what to think. So the panel is about extremism. They are radicalizing your children in school with extremism. That's gender ideology. That's climate alarmism. We've had parents contact us with their children coming home crying that they're not going to be able to have a family because, as Greta Thunberg says in the school book, the Earth's on fire. We need to introduce a solution as a life skills program for modern living. Scrap the CSPE, scrap the SPHE, get rid of all the 72 genders that Helen McEntee put in there. Stop telling kids they can pick a gender, be non-binary, or would belong to come into your child's classroom. They have a toolkit which teaches your children about breast binding, genital tucking, misgendering, dead naming, and pronouns, and where to go get their hormones. One of the books in the libraries teaches children they can order puberty blockers online, pictures of how to inject those puberty blockers for age 12. The only way to stop all this is to get thousands and thousands of angry parents or take a lawsuit. I think we're going to have a better success at this point getting people to rise up en masse.
Tax breaks for having children, I mentioned it already. That's what we should be doing. Mega tax break for Irish citizens, full bore, to have children. huge tax breaks and support, grants, whatever it takes. The Danish, the Swiss models of migration. So you need to be, what, 5 or 6 years in the country before you get near citizenship? The first 3 years, I think, going from memory, you can't have been on any benefits in the first few years or you don't apply, you know? These are the things we could do if we weren't being told what to do from the top. I'd remove all preferential treatments of migrants, illegal migrants. I mean, there's a lot of preferential stuff going on. And if you think about it, this isn't far right, this isn't racist. That's absurd. I'm the opposite of that. I'm talking common sense. Why would you bring in people, huge numbers, with very low skill and education levels, and then pile benefits on them? It's just absurd. Waive taxes, multiple grants for young Irish citizens seeking to buy houses. Really put support into that in a big way, along with support for raising families.
That you have to give nurses before they come back home is a job, a permanent job, employed by the health system, not by some agency. The other thing we have to give them is somewhere to live. And I touched on this yesterday, that in every hospital you used to have a nurse's home. Let's rebuild them. Instead of, you know, building more offices and more hotels, let's build nurses' homes so that when they come back, they immediately have somewhere to live.
The threats from a national security perspective exist in the domains of land, sea, air, space, and cyber. We cannot defend ourselves on land. We cannot defend ourselves on sea. We have no subsea capability whatsoever. If you were to sever the handful of subsea cables that connect this country to the rest of the world, our economy would be done. It would be toast. We would not be able to get it back on its feet for a year or more. There is no redundant connectivity plan in place, none whatsoever. We have to increase our spending on defence and security, and I would suggest if we halved our NGO spending and moved some of that money into defence, we might start to be credible. Okay, thank you.
Our great skill as a nation is conciliation, is reconciliation. Our great skill as a nation is in negotiation. It is in lateral thinking. It is in bringing people together, getting that vital handshake between belligerents, and that's something we're good at in this country. That's our skill. That's our lateral thinking, and that is what we should celebrate, and that is what we should put on offer. We should be the peace leaders of the world.
Friendly countries in the Middle East like the United Arab Emirates who are really clear on this point. And the idea that we think we know more about the dynamics of the Islamic Brotherhood than the UAE does, I suggest is probably a misinformed position. We need to prohibit them as an organisation.
They're already there. There's closed society there. I can see it in shops that have opened up and have spurted up and are getting government grants and funds, and NGOs are coming in behind them, and they're closing their doors and they're locking their doors. There's something going on. We need to kick down those doors. We need to say, lads, hold on a second. If you don't have respect for our country, if you don't have respect for our land, if you don't have respect for our laws, get out.
People are in our country who have committed atrocities, and inevitably there will be more coming in. We don't have the skill set to recognise where they are, so therefore we need to be vigilant. We need to close our borders. Let's phrase it like that. Close our borders. The fundamental duty of any nation is to define its territory. And if you have opened borders, you have not defined your territory. Close our borders now.
Can I just put to the panel, just as we're getting close to the end of the discussion.